Hi everybody, it's Kristin and I am excited to be doing another 4 Looks 1 palette. It has been a really long time since I did one of these, so I'm really excited to share this one with you. Before you ask me, you obviously know that this one is the Urban Decay Naked Heat, but before you ask me, I did order the Jaclyn Hill palette. I'm not sure when this is going up since I'm just filming the first look today, but I will start a Jaclyn Hill palette, 4 Looks 1 palette, you know what I mean? I'll start that right away. So we'll have two kind of, not back to back, but within a couple of weeks of each other. So I am going to do that, I promise. All right, so we are gonna go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to mention is I will be bringing in Wet n Wild's, I'm getting it out of its little palette here, Wet n Wild's Brulee into this 4 Looks 1 palette because I like to use that to clean up on the side of my brow bone. And this one, this shade here in Ounce, I did use that today as my highlight, but it's got too much shimmer in it to do any cleanup on the side. So I just wanted to give that a quick mention. All right. So as I've started doing with my last ones, I'll be telling you what brush that I use. With the Wayne Goss number 16 brush, I took He Devil, which is this matte shade right here. I blended that into the crease very lightly with a really, really light hand because there's some pigment and a little bit more depth to that I want, or a little more deepness, I should say, that I wanted. And then on the inner 2/3 with the MAC 239, I took the shade in Lumbre. I'll have to research that. I didn't even think about it. Let me make sure I'm putting it the right one. Which is this shade right here. And like I said, I did it in the 2/3. And then on the outer corner with the Wayne Goss number 06 brush, I took the shade in Ashes. This is a really pretty shade. But I'm not sure it has quite that sort of purple eggplant pull once you put it on the eye. We'll see. And then I did use, like I said, I used Ounce underneath, or on my brow bone. And then I took this same brush, this Wayne Goss 06, just on the tip. I went into Ashes beneath my lower lash line, just kind of make a little smoky. And then I took a little bit of Sauced, which is the shade right here, blended that as well. And I took a little Sauced just on the edge of my crease as well. I think that is everything. So let me zoom you in. So here's the look. On my cheeks today, I used the MAC blush in At Dusk. This is one of my favorites. This is one of those in Dimension blushes. You can see how much I've used of that blush. And then on my lips, I used the Beauty Junkie liquid lipstick in Dinner Party. And normally I would stop here, but I just want to say, I don't necessarily always do a bold lip with, you know, not that this is a deep eye, but this is an eye that has some smokiness to it. But I really like how this shade pulled a little bit of that, what was it, Afterburn? Ashes, Afterburn. I really like how it kind of pulled a little more of that eggplant with this shade. So anyway, that's what I did today. Okay, for my second look, I started by laying down this shade in Chaser right here in the, you know, my crease and really up to just beneath my brow bone. And I used a Zoeva 228 brush to do that. Then I went in with, I have this funny look on my face because one of the shades just didn't do what I thought it was going to do at all. Not sure, anyway. So I took my Tom Ford number 12 brush, which is kind of this, it's not really for laying down eyeshadow, but that's what I grabbed, and so that's what I used. I used that in the shade Ounce right here on my lid. It has a really pretty sheen to it. And then I took my Wayne Goss number 17 brush, so just a, you know, a crease brush. This is the brush that I used. I only used it in that color, and the color that I used, which is right here, Ember. Do you see? I am so confused by this shade. I mean, when you zoom in, or when I zoom in, I'll kind of turn and look, and you'll be able to kind of see a hint of that shade right here. But when you swatch it, it looks like this really pretty bronze shade on your finger. When you swatch it on your hand, which is what I do before I put any shades on my eye, I kind of put them on my hand a little bit to see what I think. Totally looks bronzy, but when I applied it to my eye, it's like a deep turn. And here, even when you're wiping it off, it's very interesting. Now, I have not watched any tutorials, reviews, video, anything on this palette. I just wanted to go in, you know, sort of sight unseen and, you know, not have anybody else's influence on what my thoughts were. So I don't know. Anyway, so then since it didn't have exactly the look that I was interested in, I grabbed my Wayne Goss number 19 brush, which is a smaller sort of crease brush, and I went into En Fuego right here. And I had that on the crease line, sort of in between where I had laid down chaser and then where I had put that ember. And then I grabbed this brush. You guys remember this from back in the day. This is part of the duo from Essence of Beauty. I don't even know if this is around anymore. This is the bigger of the two. I used that one again in that In Fuego, and I went beneath my lower lash line. And I think that's everything aside from, of course, I used the Wet n Wild Brulee under my brow bone and just to clean up on the side a little bit. So for liner, I have the Sephora Queen of the Nile on my upper waterline, which is so strange to me. That liner is giving me issues, and I don't know why. But anyway, that's a story for another video. And then I used my Chanel liner in Ombre Dore, which is kind of a bronzy eyeliner. I used that in my lower waterline. All right, I think that's it. So let me zoom you in. Okay, so here's the look. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm talking about, where you can see, I'm gonna look in the viewfinder. You can see a little bit of that kind of bronzy shift, but for all intents and purposes, it's charcoal. Okay, so for blush today, I have the J-Cat Beauty blush. It's called Blush and Bronzer, but it's in the shade, actually, let me look, Sweet Pea Pink. I love this shade, it's just a really pretty pink. And then on my lips, I have this. It's an Allegory Story lip gloss. I think I got this in a BoxyCharm, and it's in Plato's Cave. Okay, for my third look, I used my Wingus number 04 brush, and I used that in Low Blow right here, and I laid that down in the crease. And then on the outer 2/3 of my lid with my MAC 239, excuse me, brush, I used Scorch, which is a gorgeous shade right there. Again, that's on the outer 2/3 of my eye. And then on the inner third of my eye with my Sony 206 brush, I just blended that Scorched out with Ounce, and then just kind of brighten things up a little bit. All right, then with the same brush I used yesterday, this Essence of Beauty brush, I took Scorched beneath my lower lash line into about there, and then I blended out into the inside with Lumber. It wasn't a huge difference, but it was just enough to kind of brighten it up as it would come to the inside. And then I was trying to decide, and I used Ounce on my upper brow bone, or on my brow bone as well. I was trying to decide what to deepen things up with. Because I had used In Fuego and Ashes already, I used He Devil, and I realized I had used He Devil before, but I used that in the crease really lightly. So this time, I used it on a MAC 217 on the outer corner. So it wasn't a stark difference in tone, like it was more still like a mid-tone as Scorched, but it added sort of that matte element and kind of changed the dimension of the eye a little bit. So that's what I was going for there. And then on my lower waterline, I used the CoverGirl, nope, that's a lie, Maybelline Lasting Drama in Striking Copper. To grab it, I had put it away. On my upper waterline, I used the Tarte Skinny Smolder Eyes in Moonstone Brown, just on my upper waterline. I didn't want quite the harshness of black. So let me zoom you in. So here's the look. For blush today, I used the Makeup Forever Blush in number 10. Just a really pretty, kind of goes with everything sort of blush. And then I wanted to add a little bit of highlight. So I took from my Itsy palette, from the Love for Lacquer collection, I took the one in Run the World and just kind of add a little bit up there. And then lastly, on my lips today, I have the Tarte Lip Paint in Birthday Suit. Alrighty, for my fourth look today, that looks a lot like my first three. Just saying. It's a little spoiler alert for you. I used Dirty Talk right here, this shade right here, on that Sony 206 brush. I used that on my inner third and my outer third. Flipped the brush over, and then I used Lumbre. That's how you say it. I looked it up. Lumbre, which means fire in Spanish. I should have looked it up before, but I used that on the inner third. That wasn't bright enough, and it's still, even with what I did, isn't quite kind of, you know, the look I was going for, kind of that halo eye. I put a little Ounce over the top of it, and that helped to kind of brighten it up a little bit. I have Cayenne in the crease, and then I used, again, the Wet n Wild Brulee as my brow bone kind of blend out highlight color. And then beneath my lower lash line, I used Cayenne as well. And I used that again on this same Essence of Beauty brush. Really been digging that again. And then what I did, and you'll see when I zoom in, is I used this Victoria Beckham. This was the eye foil in blonde gold. So I'll kind of show you. You can't really see so much. You'll be able to see when I zoom in. I put some of that on the back of my hand, and then I used just a liner brush and kind of placed it along that lash line over the shadow. It's kind of really one of my favorite ways to use that product. I like it particularly over a really warm shadow. I don't know, there's just something about it that I like. And then I line my upper and lower waterline and upper lash line with the Julep Gel Eye Glider in Blackest Black. I think that's everything for my eyes. So let me zoom you in. So here's the look. On my cheeks today, I have the Wet n Wild in Rose Champagne. And then for my lips, I use an oldie but a goodie. And this is the Doll 10 Duo. I have it ripped apart. I have it broken apart here. This is the lipstick in Doll Code. And then over the top of that, I have the lip gloss in Miss Bliss. Okay, so before we get into swatches, let's talk about the palette a little bit. There are 12 shades, as there are in all of the Naked palettes. 7 of these shades are matte, which is interesting. Not complaining, just interesting. It's you know, normally there are more shimmers than matte, so that's a nice kind of change of pace. I'll wait for the review. It comes with the standard brush that they put in most of the palettes. Actually, I don't know that this is the standard one anymore. I didn't use it, which I never do, but it has normally there's like a flat one, and this is a little more fluffy. And then they're just so dense and hard that they don't generally work well for blending. So they're not my favorite. It's in that new kind of plastic packaging. I thought that the box that it came in was interesting. It came in a box where it was sitting down in it, and it slid in like this. I thought that was kind of interesting. Just thought I would mention it. It doesn't affect the product any, obviously. It sells for $54, like I think all of the Naked palettes are $54 now. Ulta, Sephora, you name it. Same places you always get Urban Decay products. All right, so let me give you some swatches. Ounce, Chaser, Sauced, Low Blow. So Ounce, Chaser, Sauced, and Low Blow. And of those Chaser, Sauced, and Low Blow are mattes, and then Ounce is so you can see a little sheen to it. Lumbre. I listened to that so many times on the Google thing, you know, where you can tell it yesterday just to make sure I could say it right. Lumbre. I probably am still saying it wrong. Okay, so Lumbre, He Devil, Dirty Talk, and Scorched. Lumbre, He Devil, Dirty Talk, and Scorched. Of those, He Devil is the only matte. Cayenne, Enfuego, Ashes, and Ember. Cayenne, Enfuego, Ashes, and Ember. And Ember is the only non-matte. Those are the 3 are mattes. So there they are. And I stand by this Ember being such a confusing shade. You can see again there what it looks like when you swatch it. But I'm telling you, when I showed you, when I applied it to the eye, again, I haven't used this brush for anything else. I mean, that's it. It's charcoal. And I don't know. Anyway, so my thoughts on the palette. Do you need this palette? Is it worth your $54? I say no. I don't think so. I will probably return it. One of the things I want to show you, you guys all know and probably have seen, they kick up a lot of dust. So I don't really, sorry, I have my wipes here. I don't really hold that against, you know, my Lorac shadows, which are some of my favorites. Those kick up some dust as well. So I'm just mentioning that. And, you know, some of the metallic ones, you can see right here that they are a little bit flaky. So, you know, I wonder if I were to apply that Ember to my eye with my finger, I probably would get more of that shade. But it's really more of a shade that I would put in a crease. I don't know. So anyway, the shadows last a long time. They last all day long, no creasing, just like all of my other Urban Decay palettes. I don't have any issues with that. They blend very well onto each other. You guys know I've talked about that before. Sometimes shadows just don't blend well onto each other. The mattes blend with the shimmers with the shimmers, the mattes with the matte. You know, I've tried all of those things. And I just don't feel like it's, they're all very similar. They all sort of kind of come off on the eye very similar. And I wouldn't say it's that you get muddy looks. I'm looking in the mirror. It's not muddy, but it's not distinct either. I'm probably making no sense. If this is your first 4 Looks 1 palette, I'm usually a little more concise than this, but this palette just, it kind of has me a little befuddled. So those are my thoughts. I don't think you need it. Hopefully the looks that I created helped you if you do have it. If you love it, great. And you may not have, if you don't have a lot of these, you know, warmer shades in your collection, then this might be a great addition to your collection. I think that there's nothing in here that's not dupable, although a lot of palettes these days are easily dupable. Know what I'm saying? There's a lot of palettes out there. So I do wish that it had a shade kind of like this again, and I'll show you everything else that I used on my face throughout the video, but you know, I always wish some kind of a palette had this, but clearly I have one of these in my collection, so it's not the big. The other thing I would have liked to have seen in here is a darker brown, like a true kind of brown to work off some of those, like a warm brown, like Folly, like MAC Folly. I don't know. Anyway, there are my thoughts. So the rest of my face, I will tell you, I used the primer from Becca, the First Light priming filter, and then I did wear the Lancome that I just reviewed. In case you haven't seen that, I will list it below. The Tint Idole Ultra 24 in the shade 100. This is a little bit light for me, and I've been working through the Dior Star foundations, and I had used up all of the 10, so I had actually just stuck this in my empties because it's too dark for me to wear on its own, but you can see there's just a little bit left down in there. Pause for the truck. I mixed these 2 shades together, or these, and I really like actually the finish of it. I'm just tipping things over left and right. For powder foundation, just to kind of go over everything just a little bit, I have the Estee Lauder Double Wear powder foundation. I'm in the shade 2C1. And for bronzer, I use the IT Cosmetics. This is the one I'm working through now because I finished the other one. For all intents and purposes, I finished the other one. It kind of broke, but anyway. So I'm using this. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, for brows, I use the Goof Proof in number 3. And for mascara, I've been working through the sample. I actually have 2 of these samples. I accidentally opened 2 of them at the same time. This is the Giorgio Armani Black Ecstasy Mascara. And I think that is it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I hope that you enjoyed this. Sorry I wasn't as, you know, concise and matter of fact as normally. I'm just, I don't know. Bottom line, I'm returning it. So there you go. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. And in everything that you do, be beautiful. Bye.